In today's speedrun of how quickly I can get myself sectioned, I decided enough was enough. It was time to prove to you all that my skills didn't just lie in honouring the Raccoon City DNRs or flattening old babushkas who were out sweeping the streets. No, it was time to put my skills through a real test, and what better way to do that than by tackling one of the greatest Call of Duties to ever exist. Ew. No, not that Modern Warfare 2. This Modern Warfare 2.
Remember, no Russian.
The OG game was a force to be reckoned with, and its holy trifecta of content raised a whole generation of boys to become extremely distrusting of anyone with the last name Shepard. But it was the more underappreciated Spec Ops that was in our intervention crosshairs today. Now, Spec Ops was a side game mode consisting of 23 varied missions ranging from Mario Kart time trials in the snow, World War III simulators, and whatever this is.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now.
Completing each mission would award the player up to 3 golden stars, but whereas most of us would usually take a leisurely, wholly normal pace through these 23 side quests, in today's challenge, like a SEAL Team 6 version of Super Mario, we'd be collecting all 69 of these stars solo to achieve Spec Ops mastery without ever dying. And what better place to start than our first mission, where death was physically impossible. In search of our first 3 stars, the pit was a shooting range / war crime simulator where you'd need to hit all 24 targets and cross the finish line in under 35 seconds, and preferably without murdering any innocent children on the way through. With failure really only possible here if you committed civilian genocide or were so slow Black Ops 6 came out, it would be seriously impressive to not make it through here with our first 3 stars, and with an opening time of 23.7 seconds, we were up on the Spec Ops board. The next mission in the Alpha Ops bracket was Sniper Fi, where we'd need to take up the role of a Best Buy employee on Black Friday and defend ourselves and the store against 5 waves of increasingly aggressive customers. With the Barrett being the Modern Warfare 2 equivalent of a railgun, the first wave was easily defeated, and at the start of round 2, Captain Handsoap kindly drops off a laptop with some Predator missiles, which makes the remaining 4 waves laughably easy. 97 more enemies later and some carefully planted ordnance meant that we could collect our next 3 stars and move on to O Christmas Dementor.
O Cristo Redentor.
Where if we wanted to collect our 9th golden star of this attempt, we'd need to mow down 50 enemies and dogs in this Cambodian death camp, whilst also ensuring that we murdered less than 3 civilians, which may just be the hardest part of this mission. With an apparently unquenchable thirst for the blood of AI civilians, we continued our murderous rampage through the favela, adding digital animal cruelty to our list of crimes for today, and 4 minutes 52 seconds later, our 7th, 8th and 9th star were aggressively applied into our pockets. Evasion, Alpha Bracket's 4th mission, replicates one of the chapters in the campaign's 3rd act, Contingency, where we have to make our way through the Alps in search of some après ski in the most violent way possible. By hiding in this Cape bush on the right as soon as we spawn in, we can avoid the first patrol that's immediately approaching us from the north. By doing so, the next patrol we have to worry about is all the way up at the top of this hill. With 4 well-placed shots in this order, we lay them to rest permanently in the snow, allowing us to push up to this tree, and despite the pretty stacked patrol heading towards us, a quick mop-up before the end of the level is all that was required for us to sneak our way into our 12th star in what was to be a very rare perfect run through this mission. But for now, it was on to the final mission to close out Alpha Ops. For suspension, we'd need to make our way through one end of this bridge all the way to the checkpoint at the end, removing a platoon of Russian invaders and an attack helicopter in the process. All the enemies in the first area propelled down from either side of the bridge, meaning we could take out a portion of them as they grappled down before the remaining soldiers lined up perfectly on our side of the bridge, giving us a clip for our next montage. In Area 2, so long as we didn't set foot on the bridge itself, we don't spawn in the additional 2 helicopters of reinforcements that would otherwise usually arrive, meaning we could sit back here and whittle down the remaining enemies on the bridge, noob tube the attack helicopter, and take the free run through to the end of the mission, signing off the completion of our first bracket of challenges and arriving in Bravo bracket, ready for our first taste of masochism, and coincidentally, our first problem. Now, any seasoned Modern Warfare 2 veteran will know that there are 2 Bravo bracket missions that require a second player. For both Overwatch and Big Brother, you require a colleague to man the AC-130 or the chopper gunner, where from the seats of their Freedom vehicles they can clear a route through for the player on the ground all the way to the end of the level. However, as this was a solo challenge, we'd just have to skip these missions and make this a 63 out of 69 challenge instead.
You are acting like a complete fucking deranged moron!
Now I'm acting like a fucking deranged moron?
At the addition of a small financial cost and at the expense of turning my office into a literal furnace with 2 PCs running at the same time, I created a setup that would soon become the most upvoted post on our battle stations and would give me the required tools to complete these 2 co-op missions by myself. How this would work is that I had my main PC here on my desk, which I'd use to control the player who was on the ground. Behind me was monitor and PC 2, where 02, who was also me, was manning the gunner's seat. For both these levels, I'd need to take advantage of enemy spawn triggers. I'd use player 1 on the ground to trigger a series of strategic enemy spawn points dotted around the map, and by coinciding these triggers with a safe checkpoint for my player on the ground to run to, I could leave them AFK whilst I turned around to PC 2 and provided aerial support from above, which was surprisingly effective. For Overwatch, I had 5 checkpoints that I'd created throughout the level for these spawns, the first of which was at this rock right at the start of the level. Arriving here spawns in the first platoon of enemies from the houses up on the hill and signals in 2 transport helicopters to come in and drop off their loads. Once we'd forced them to make an emergency landing and secured the rest of the area, player 1 on the ground could move up to this house, and with a grenade launcher applied to this hallway, it would take care of these 3 on-rushing enemies, allowing us to quickly sit prone in said hallway for checkpoint 2. With the reinforcements from the field, the houses up the street and this helicopter cleared out, we could forge a free path up to checkpoint 3 inside this house. Once inside, we have to do a spot of murdering by ourselves for a change, but with these 2 taken out, we can plant ourselves safely in the living room at the back as we give the new joiners to the area the AC-130 above treatment.
Enemy AC-130 above! Don't do it to me. I beg you. No.
With death rained down on the cannon fodder, checkpoint 4 is in this courtyard, where we again use our noob tube against this wall to convert these new challengers into human liquid. The next checkpoint is here in this stream, where the cars and helicopters were deleted before they'd even had a chance to turn the radio on. The 5th and final checkpoint are these 2 forbidden cinnamon rolls here, where another squad emerges from inside the farm and the gas station up the road. Regaining control of the player on the ground for the final push, we'd need to proceed with caution, as depending on the RNG here, there can be 2 enemies that spawn in the first outhouse to our right. But with them removed from the playing field, we reload the noob tube 1 final time to blow the final group of enemies rushing out of the barn and give us a clear sprint through to the finish line. This was certainly an experience to be sure, but the strategic checkpoints that we'd identified made this all surprisingly manageable, and we'd apply a similar principle to Big Brother. For this mission, the objective is to make it to McDonald's and order 20 chicken nuggets without being turbo-fisted by the Russians, evidently here looking to reclaim the Golden Arches for the motherland. 2 things that made Big Brother different from Overwatch was that A, we have a hugely generous amount of time to beat this level, meaning we could take a pretty leisurely pace through, and B, there's actually a kill limit on this level, which once hit, auto-completes the mission for us. But that's a long way off. The first port of call was to move up and prone down behind this wall so we could spin around in my chair like a budget Bond villain and minigun the first group of enemies emerging from the treehouse. Once done, the next segment of this level requires us to hit 3 checkpoints I'd identified on the left side of the street. Our cycle would involve us bunkering down at this first blue house, then the second yellow house, and then the house at the end of the street, all of which would spawn in a wave of enemies. We'd sit player 1 down safely in the corner at house 1 and take out the squad arriving on the ground, repeating this all the way up the street to house 3. Once here, the chopper gunner swings around to deal with the roadblock up ahead, which helps to clear the way down the alley for us. As we grind up more McDonald's usurpers, once player 2 destroys the transport vehicle from the chopper and a few overzealous Russians who could be like rushing B, we can switch back to myself, back up the road. We'd need to be very careful heading up the alleyway. There's a number of sneaky Russians hiding in the dumpsters and around the corners ready to aim punch the absolute soul out of us. But using a few well-placed grenades ensures that we displace them for some easy kills and arrive ready at checkpoint 4. Once underneath the chopper, we prone right here next to the bush before manning the gunner to take out 2 infantry transports on the road, preventing them from dropping their platoon off at the sports bar. We push up to Burger King first and then onto Taco Bell to take shelter behind their menu as we thought about what we wanted to order for lunch.
You are my honey bun, sugar plum, pumpy.
With the chopper gunner giving us a completely clear roof to head up to on the sports bar, climbing up the ladder initiates the final segment. With an RPG I picked up on the way, we had an almost infinite amount of bullets we could use to reject the last squadron of enemies who came up this ladder and the one we'd just come up. We could have made a run for the chopper, but rather than risk letting enemies swarm up here and being shot in the back, we can simply use the kill limit I'd mentioned earlier and instigate the end of the level on our terms, and voila. The pair of 2-player missions previously suspected as impossible as a single man was indeed very doable. But we couldn't just rest on this 6-star victory alone. We had plenty more to go, starting with body count. This mission required us to rack up a large body count, which at first I thought was a sex thing, but apparently we'd just be given points and bonuses for every kill we'd get until we hit a 30,000 point target instead. How disappointing. Rather than risk our lives trying to fight our way through this level like a normal person would, using the knowledge accumulated by mad lads before me, we could grab this RPG, use this chair to jump over this fence, and as we waited for the imminent explosion of the Semtex we planted on this transport carrier, a single RPG destroys one of the 2 BTRs and gives us a Kilimanjaro killstreak, and finishes the mission within 20 seconds. If only every mission was this easy. Unfortunately, the next 3 stars would require a bit more manual work. Bomb Squad requires us to run around the slums of Brazil, attempting to defuse 3 bombs planted throughout the level. For the most part, as long as you can avoid murdering a civilian within the first 3 seconds of the mission, it all comes down to a slow and calculated path through Rio streets. Starting at Bomb Site 1, we just had to ensure that we didn't have our tits blown off by this shotgun-wielding camper sitting inside the site. With a tactical flash at Bomb Site 2 stunning the entire group here, we complete the second defuse without any trouble before arriving at the Los Pollos Hermanos distribution center, ready to attempt defuse 3. And apart from making my fair share of fried chicken, Bomb Site 3, probably the sketchiest one of the lot, was defused and the favela saved, putting the 27th Golden Star under our belt. Still, without having died once. And that wasn't likely to change for the final Bravo mission, the race, which was a race. To get these 3 stars, we'd need to finish the course in less than 1 minute and 10 seconds. Death here can really only be achieved if someone shoots me off the snowmobile, or I had a brain fart and drove headfirst into a tree, neither of which were close to happening. This time. A quick drive later and we arrived safely at the finish line in 1 minute 8 seconds. Hardly a record-breaking time, but more than enough to secure our 30th Spec Ops star. At this point, there was a growing suspicion that I'd maybe oversold the difficulty of this challenge. My win streak had defied my already very low expectations of myself, and I was clearly on an egregious amount of copium thinking that I may complete this on my first attempt. What a fucking moron. Charlie Ops was our first taste of the Super Soaker diarrhea that Spec Ops still had ready in the chamber for us. We'd been sampling lemon and herb levels of Spec Ops spice, but Charlie Ops was flaming hot anal bead sauce. The first Charlie Ops mission was Hidden, which allows us to experience the iconic mission All Gillied Up from Call of Duty 4, where Price crawls through Chernobyl and grows a 3rd arm in his pants from all the radiation he was ingesting. For us, we start off the mission by sniping 3 opening enemies, but for the rest of the level, there was a critical series of steps that we'd need to follow precisely to ensure we prevented this attempt from slipping into absolute chaos. Within 3 areas of this level are fellow gillied up snipers, all of whom provided a staggering amount of damage and secondary jump scares directly into our eyeballs. Oh my fuck. In Area 1 and 2, there are a total of 8 snipers, all hiding amongst the radioactive dogshit out here. But through skill, discipline, and the help of Double's exceptional guide, I now knew where all of these losers were camping. First off, we hit the sniper sitting on the corner of this container before panning very slowly around to our left, where Sniper 2 eventually enters our scope. A further pan left spots us the 3rd hiding here in between the tree and this tank, where with him put down we could now push up to Area 2, pulling out our C4 and throwing a satchel over this wrecked line of tanks here, hitting one of the snipers nestled in this corner. Once he was down, we can immediately turn to this tree here and hit Sniper 5 before aiming up past this wreckage to spawn camp Sniper 6. From there, Sniper 7 of 8 takes position on this ridge, and despite an extremely sus jump shot, Sniper 8 of 8 is absolutely shit on to complete the first area. Moving up to Area 2, stopping here in between this sign and the pipe gets us a triple kill, and with the sniper in the tower silenced, the 3 enemies here are swiftly reminded that smoking kills. We land another triple kill inside the chapel by aiming through this exact pane of glass, hitting some poor unsuspecting guard on his way out to lunch. One C4 out the window then sends the second patrol to Henchman Hell, and a sniper across the way for the one remaining enemy here closes out Area 4. Running up and looking at this window scores us a collateral on the 2 enemies patrolling in the first house. At least that would be the case if I weren't complete shit, so let's just ignore what's happening there in the background and show you what would happen in a perfect scenario if I didn't aim like I had Parkinson's. So you should get that double kill on the 2 enemies in the window and then silence the one concerned colleague walking out of the stables. 2 C4s would then delete his co-workers located here, and now we can rejoin real life to review the toughest, most anxiety-inducing part of this mission. The final 5 gillies. The best way I'd found to get through here was to double back through to the first house and look straight through this window here. Within this pane, you should be able to see 3 enemy snipers here in this area. With them eliminated, if you double back and look through this archway, there's 1 sniper here and 1 hiding behind the shack located between us and the exit. The only problem is that I'd only seen 2 of the 3 snipers in that first area, meaning that there was still an active shooter somewhere out there. I spent nearly 6 minutes going completely schizo looking for this guy. Leaving him alive was almost certainly a death sentence, and with this progress on the line, I had to be extra careful. Eventually, after 17 hours of searching, I made a brave dash for the exit. There's actually no one here. Oh my god. For our efforts and absolutely S-tier cringe, Gorbachev gives us 1,000 rubles and 3 glistening gold stars for our work in Chernobyl and for restoring glory to the motherland. Despite now having grown a third testicle from all the radiation we'd absorbed, we couldn't stop here, as our next 3 stars were waiting in the mission. Breach and Clear was basically a reenactment of how I personally like to play through an escape room. The mission requires us to breach through this wall and fight our way through this bathroom and its occupants to the end of the hall, where dropping through this big gaping hole would complete the mission. The problem was, though, that speed was of the essence here. Waiting for too long spawns in a Call of Duty reenactment of the scene from The Rock, with red laser-wielding snipers rushing the gallery to ruin our day. If we grab the striker and head straight around to the left, praying to Makarov that we didn't get one-shotted in the face by a shotgun, we can line up a noob tube here in this corner in the right to break through the line of riot shield enemies now forming up between us and the exit. By following up with the single flash we had, it ensures everyone remains stunned as we W-keyed our way through to the hole in the floor and to the end of the mission, all in less than 30 seconds. Very nice. Our speedy nature would now also get a second opportunity to shine as the next mission, Time Trial, repeats the Bravo Ops mission, The Race, but this time with a timer that would be kept topped up by hitting a series of checkpoints. If the timer reaches 0, we fail the mission, but making it through the first segment, you get more than enough time to speed down to the end of the hill. With Time Trial now complete, our next attempt at stealing 3 more stars from the Infinity Ward Overlords was with Homeland Security, which is again a wave-based level where you need to fight off a series of enemies, BTRs, Predator drones, and helicopters to bring the curtain down on the level. With the assistance of some turrets and hunkering down in this restaurant, we could reenact what it was like to work in any Waffle House past the hour of 10 in the evening as we periodically popped up to snipe foot soldiers on the ground. For 4 waves, things were going well. Enemies fell upon the Waffle House like vodka on an alcoholic's liver. We booby-trapped our back doors as well to prevent any sneaky hobbitses from getting in and placed our 2 turrets impeccably well. This entire level was now just us going through the motions until we beat the final wave.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
At the time, I was absolutely stunned. I didn't really think I was going to beat this first time, but I'd seemingly died from nothing. But on reviewing the footage, I'd identified the culprit who'd destroyed this run. It was the same person to blame for all the problems in my life. It was me. Apparently, in a split-second moment of carelessness, I'd forgotten that I was now packing Semtex, not flash grenades.
You can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrificed?
I felt like the guy in Saving Private Ryan who blows himself up with his own sock bomb. And whilst this first attempt had yielded spectacular results, attempt 1 had an expiration date, and from here on out, it was all downhill from here.
Bloody hell, we just got our asses kicked.
For the most part, these resets were largely caused by how shit I was, but through practice, perfection was achievable. Not for me, obviously, but for someone else more competent. Absolutely. But it quickly became clear that it made no sense to go through these in order. What made the most sense was to go for the most difficult missions first, reducing the possibility of failing them later when we had progress under our belt, and then work backwards. So that's exactly what I did. On attempt 12, I could claim 6 stars in both the pit and evasion, allowing us to unlock Bravo Ops. Another quick 3 stars from body count meant that we could then proceed with speedrunning Breach and Clear. Our new and improved strategy of using the M4 to thin out the enemies further down in the map ensured that we had a much weaker force waiting for us as we lined up our flash and noob tube. The smaller amount of enemies here meant that we weren't getting one shot in the face anymore. Well, at least 99% of the time we weren't. After completing Breach and Clear, we moved on to a level that would make our blood run cold. The hell that awaited us next was Snatch and Grab, or as I came to fondly refer to it as, Snatch and Grab Me by the Nipples. This level was the Modern Warfare 2 embodiment of residual bin juice. The mission begins with us arriving at the airfield from the campaign post-Roach and Ghost betrayal, with the objective being to download and secure the Jeffrey Epstein files off this laptop before making a daring escape out through the back of the airfield. However, between us and the exit were Shadow Company, General Shepard's personal army of chronic masturbators, as well as our first run-in with... The sound was enough to make your poop come early and without warning, and the Juggernaut's presence in this level only added to our misery. Not only did these guys turn my FOV into a fidget spinner with the amount of aim punch they delivered, but the airfield was just an awful area to try and navigate through. Full of narrow pathways and hidey holes, our attempts to infect the family computer with AIDS by downloading free RAM were consistently cut short. Oh my...
Well, that was a disaster.
God. And it wasn't just Shepard's brigade of fart sniffers running around with spinbots aim punching me into oblivion that were the problem. If we ever did make it down into the second area, the Juggernauts would consistently arrive at the absolute worst possible times.
We need to reach the gas drain.
Several deaths later, trial and error dictated that if we flashed out left as soon as we dropped out of the plane, we'd stun these two fondlers lurking around the corner, giving us a free Control-Alt-Delete on them both. If we then moved up to this container here, we could then take out any enemies still in the area with us, or any advancing enemies coming down from the hill. The arrival of the hill reinforcements were usually dependent on Juggernaut spawn, so if we had any thick boys arrive, we could work on them immediately before either A, the next wave of enemies up top had advanced down towards us, meaning we could take advantage of the cover around us to send them back to the lobby, or B, we could push up the hill and take the battle to them instead. No matter what we did though, success was never guaranteed here, but this strategy did yield a pretty good success rate, and on this attempt we'd managed to fight our way through to the hardest 3 stars so far. With another 6 stars under our belt, we had now unlocked Infinity Ward Hell. Our first taster of Delta Ops, which should have been given the call sign Diarrhea Ops, was with war driving. A mission where Barack Obama had sent us on a presidential mission to download free V-Bucks on 3 separate laptops in the area. But between us and them, the Gazpacho police had been unleashed on American suburbia, and were hell-bent on preventing our purchase of all 10 of the thickest Fortnite characters of all time. What we did have though was the Honey Badger backing us up. This $60,000 15-ton piece of American peacebringer was here to issue out early retirement plans to the soldiers standing between us and these laptops. At our laser-designated fingertips, we could unleash the Honey Badger on these soldiers and gratefully receive an equal amount of friendly fire to the back of our own head as well. With composure regained, the autopilot in me would usually start at the first house here and work our way down towards the end of the street. The problem with this linear strategy is that as soon as the last file is downloaded off laptop 3, completion of the mission is contingent on us returning back to Winnie the Pooh's war machine, but like the absolutely dogshit teammate this guy was, instead of waiting for us at the last house and picking us up, Terry puts it in reverse and speeds all the way back to the start of the level, leaving us to be swamped by a group of freshly spawned enemies. To offset this betrayal of trust, I'd let the first laptop be interrupted, finish laptop 2 and set up a death trap of claymores and turrets to absolutely delete anyone who came in to interrupt laptop 3. Once done, we can make our way back to laptop 1, and without any resistance we can immediately restart the download and run straight back out to the Honey Badger who was waiting outside my house for a quick and speedy exit out of this mission. Entering our next Delta Ops challenge takes us to Heathrow Airport and follows a passenger, me, as I attempted to get through security with 11 bottles of duty-free rum. Security in the airport was, as you'd expect, pretty tight, so getting through here as an alcoholic would be a challenge in itself. But what I hadn't quite realised was that I had a weapon of mass destruction at my fingertips. The United States had its nuclear bombs, the UK has its cuisine, but they both fall in comparison to the most destructive weapon in the known universe. The right shield was the perfect combination of defense and offense, made out of an alien plastic composition that was tougher than anything in existence, stopping bullets, RPGs, even Thanos. But it also hit unsuspecting officers in the face at the speed of light, punching their very souls out of their body. With the equivalent of a zombie's insta-kill permanently at our fingertips, the real key to this mission was being very, very, very careful not to be overwhelmed and swarmed.
Bloody hell, we just got our asses kicked.
Okay, 2 seconds. I'm going to bed. Determined not to miss my flight, I returned to terminal on my 15th attempt and fielded a new strategy, thanks in part to the discovery that this elevator was made out of the same indestructible material as the riot shield. Apparently this airport could withstand nuclear holocaust, so by tucking myself in here, I was kept safe from the horrors outside as my would-be murderers formed an orderly queue, ready for me to put them into a vegetative state. This strategy is obviously contingent on me remembering to not take the wrong elevator door and panic thinking that we were falling to our death down the open elevator shaft. Oh, thank God. But after taking the lift back up to floor 1, waves 1, 2 and 3 were easily beaten back, and after setting up a series of claymores for the final wave to run into, all we had to do was bait and wait for them to come to me before making our way to baggage reclaim to collect my 3 stars. There was only one thing that could derail our newfound success. Yeah, I'm dead. I felt quite ill. But this was a prime example of what I was going to be continually dealing with here. The AI in this game were absolutely feral and had what can only be described as weaponized bipolar. On one attempt, they'd be complete smooth brains who'd forget to breathe unless you reminded them. Other attempts, they'd be out here parting my cheeks like the Red Sea.
We need to reach the gas trap. Let's run it again.
The inbound aim punch that we were receiving was enough to make me put my foot through my monitor, like in attempt 34, where within 9 frames I was already facing the sky, apparently pre-praying to God as my run passed on to the afterlife. After sacrificing an acceptable amount of pain to the masochist gods, we'd finally made progress, reaching the 3rd of our Delta Ops missions. Another reenactment from the main campaign. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, was to use the Canadian levels of snow currently falling to stealthily move through the airfield and plant 3 bombs, 2 on these planes and 1 at the break room. With the silenced AA-12 and EBR, the patrolling enemies were no match for this god-tier weapon combo, but no amount of Second Amendment rights could make up for the fact that I was complete trash.
Take cover, they're onto you.
That is an absolute scam. Oh my God, get me out of here, please. Well, that was AIDS. I needed a little bit of relaxation after spiking my heart rate like this, so I chose to hit up Wreckage, our 4th Delta Ops mission that was a carbon copy of Suspension from Alpha Bracket, except this time we had to destroy every single vehicle on this bridge. Which is fairly easy, as after blowing up 5 cars, the game gives us another Zombies exclusive perk, infinite ammo.
Good job, team.
After some explosive ASMR, we headed in for our final mission in Delta Ops. Estate Takedown simply asked us to defeat 40 hostiles in the area. Seemed easy enough, no real rules existed apart from that, but that also meant that there were no rules for the AI. Please. Once we defeated the Juggernaut welcome party, we could enter the main estate, and after trading up our inventory, clearing out any enemies inside the house meant that we could begin securing upstairs. Now, with 2 claymores down on the staircase, we were more or less safe from anyone trying to sneak in behind us. That being said, we weren't safe from the absolute garbage piling up outside our windows.
We need to rethink our strategy.
My timing, as always, was just impeccable. Having evidently slipped my massive forehead into someone's scope out there, the sniper hit me just as some insufferable dickhead fired an RPG directly into my bedroom. 5 painful deaths later, and we'd returned. This time adopting a more careful approach to taking down the estate. Instead of using my face as a sensor to investigate what was happening outside, I prioritised a more systematic approach to tackling the wilderness out there, taking advantage of my thermal sniper instead. Anytime a Juggernaut spawned in, if we quickly peeked out of the front window, we could stop them in their tracks before they'd even set foot inside the house, and before long, the last enemy was lured into my trap and claymored into the afterlife. Our victory in the estate had set me up for a near-perfect run. With estate done, we'd now completely wrapped up the missions in Delta Bracket, and having already taken care of the hardest Charlie Ops missions, we could begin our cleanup on the road to starting Echo Ops. The golden stars began to roll in, and before long we had accumulated 57 stars, a new personal best, and with only 4 missions left, we headed in to Big Brother.
Bloody hell, we just got our asses kicked.
Complacency. It was the death of duty, and you may be wondering who said that. Well, it was me. We were seconds away from reaching the chopper, but a loss of focus for mere seconds had meant that the start of Echo Ops and our 57 stars had slipped out of our sweaty, BO-ridden fingertips. We'd been robbed by ourselves. And our implosion had a marked impact on our performance. I mean, I certainly wasn't some giga-chad big-brain gamer, but I'd hit a very obvious wall. Simple missions were now apparently beyond me. Instead of becoming the Captain Soap that I was always meant to be, I'd become one of those weird kids that ate Tide Pods. Alexa, play the CJ meme, please.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
I'm stuck! I suppose one bright side to this bottle of farts we were being forced to whiff was that I got my PB in the pit down to 22 seconds, which I thought was quite good. Despite my sanity now matching my car, depreciating quickly, and full of bird shit, I could feel my efficiency and confidence rising. Shit on. I felt no nerves fighting through these levels anymore. Only a previously unobtainable focus on finally beating this jank bullshit. My accuracy in evasion would no doubt lead to me being reported for cheating, and breach and clear had become so optimized that I could practically do it in my sleep. I was the one now snatching and grabbing these guys by the private parts, and Delta Ops like Hidden, War Driving, or Estate, who had previously provided so much heartache, were now nothing more than a walk in the park. We'd become a one-man wrecking machine on the two-man levels, and in acceptable losses, a change in pathing meant that rather than overexposing ourselves to the 5+ groups of enemies on our usual path, we'd loop round west instead after the second C4 plant and arrive directly outside Bomb Site 3. My movement, my decision-making, my aim, it was all still mediocre. Oh my god, please climb, please! But nothing, not even man's best friend, was going to get in our way, and 50 murders later, we'd achieved 60 stars without dying once, giving us our new personal best, which meant that after 56 attempts, there was only one thing left to do. Echo Ops was previously uncharted territory and was the pinnacle of Spec Ops. With mission descriptions such as "this probably isn't even possible" or "you're going to get fisted," I was brimming with confidence as we entered wet work. This mission takes us back to the campaign level. The only easy day was yesterday, which never felt more appropriate to our current predicament. On the rig, we'd need to rescue 2 sets of hostages by breaching through these doors, one right at the start of the level and one right at the end. But between these 2 points were copious amounts of enemies on the rig who'd apparently been offered a huge bonus if they could send me back to the pit. My concern stemmed largely from the fact that I went into this level with no practice, with the last time I'd even touched it being back in 2011 when I first played the campaign. So you can imagine I was a little bit rusty. After saving the first 3 hostages, a noob tube at this gate simmers down the reinforcements and now begins a slow and careful path through the rest of the rig. This process, however, was paying dividends. I was careful but decisive and had made it all the way to the final area. And with a heart attack currently in progress, the last area becomes engulfed in vape smoke, preventing us from reaching the final hostage room. Thermal scope-wielding cyberbullies arrived, covering every approach, so we doubled back to change our diapers and lure any enemies on the ground back into our pre-laid claymores. Before long, it was time to use our own thermal scope to clear out the enemies covering the windows and make a rush for the final breach point. Yeah, the org absolutely slaps, and whilst wet work was my most concerning of the 3 levels, that had no bearing on the difficulty we still had on the table, and that was never more apparent than with armor piercing. This mission takes us immediately back to the rig, where we now have 15 juggernauts who inhabit this cursed land, and like the British Empire of old, it was time to evict them from their land. My plan had been to head up to the rig's helipad right at the end of the level, where we could hold a single corridor entry point to maximise the advantage our barrack gave us. The route up was a delicate one. Juggernauts could spawn in at any time, instantly forcing lead directly into our eyeballs. Tension aside, outside the helipad, we no-scoped the final Juggernaut in our way and set the stage for our last stand with the remaining 11 Juggernauts. No. I don't make it easy. Whilst I may now have an incessant fear of gongs and oil rigs, this was just another PTSD trigger that we could add to the ever-growing list. But now, only one final trial by fire remained. High explosive, our final test sends us back into the favelas again and requires us to take on 10 juggernauts with nothing but explosives and a knife. Oh joy, what a great mission to end on. But before anyone panics and pre-applies their hemorrhoid cream, this may come as a massive surprise, but would you believe me if I said this was one of the easiest missions in the game? The thing about juggernauts, and in fact most humans, is that none of us are really able to tank a 40mm explosive shell to the face, and juggernauts were, thankfully, no exception to that rule. By combining this gift from God with the Call of Duty equivalent of the Resident Evil save room, we could lure the juggernauts into this opening room and line up our thumper headshots. If we miss, we can just jump over this window and back outside. The juggernaut armor was so heavy that they couldn't lift their legs over the window to get in, meaning they had to walk all the way around, gifting us the perfect safety buffer. It was on paper a foolproof strategy, but it just so happens that I am a fool. After a display of accuracy that would have had me permabanned from AIM labs, we'd run out of ammo, with 5 juggernauts still remaining. This meant that we'd need to make a dash back to the resupply crate. The route out was fine, but flashing the 3 juggernauts here, one of them had not got flashed. Oh my god, how are we alive?
Mission accomplished.
Lucky for me, my nerves were made out of the same material as the riot shield from Terminal, and with the remaining juggernauts given the same fate. Like that, our work in Spec Ops was complete, and all 69 stars were ours without having ever died once. Thank you for watching as always, gamers. I hope this was a nice change of pace and that in your eyes I'd been able to prove to you all that my skills lied far beyond assassinating old ladies. But fear not, we head back into the world of survival horror in our next challenge.
Where the hell am I?